Hi, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Meditation Mastery. I'm sitting here right now in Sedona, Arizona. Kind of hard to see where I am. I know that I'm in kind of weird shadows and lights. The sun's really intense. We're in the desert. And it's like 95 degrees out, so I was hoping to maybe sit in some really epic plateau and you get this great view as I talk. But then I would be dead. So I've decided just to do it a little bit away from the house, the nicest spot that I can, that also after the video I can run back in and drink some water and get some cooling. But it's a really great place. The desert is really powerful. If you've never been to Sedona, I would highly suggest it. Really special, really spiritual place. So this morning, myself and Shannon, we went over to this one. They call them vortexes here, these energy centers. But there are these large land formations made of red rock. I wouldn't call them mountains exactly, but just large structures out of red rock, but really big that you could even climb up. And we went to one called Bell Rock, and it's because it's shaped like a bell. It's round and it goes up. And we went up Bell Rock this morning early before it got too hot. And we sat, towards the top and we meditated. And we had this really amazing, beautiful view of kind of the whole valley and all these different red rocks around and the blue of the sky, and kind of there's some green coming up. So it's a really beautiful contrast. You don't get much of that here. It's a little bit washed out with the light right now. But we sat up there and we did a little bit of our morning practice. And as I personally sat and I felt into the valley around me and I just started meditating, I felt this really beautiful, deep sense of connection. And the sense of connection to the land, the sense of connection to the sky, the spirit of the place, if you will. And that sense of connection, it really brought me to a place of relaxation. It brought me to a place of peace within myself. And from that place of peace, my mind also slowly started to drop in. I was reflecting on this, and I wanted to kind of give it today as a bit of a meditation hack, I guess we'll say. That there's a lot of different tricks, a lot of different hacks to get your mind into the zone. There's some things we need to cultivate. There's also some things we need to deactivate. So for some of us, we often are searching for a feeling of connection. On a really deep level, some of us, we feel maybe alone in this world, right? The ego is really strong. The sense of separation of self and other is really strong. That we don't feel a very natural sense of connection to the world around us, to the land, to other people. That there's stuff in the way. I think probably for all of us, there's different stuff in the way. When we feel that sense of separation, a sense of disconnection, it's kind of painful. It's not a pleasant feeling. And the mind will naturally have a kind of resistance and aversion to it. That on a very subtle emotional level, when we feel disconnected, we feel kind of like upset, we feel grumpy, we feel cranky. It's painful, actually. And on the other side of things, why do people talk about love the way that they do, right? Wanting to feel love, going to events, right? Going to concerts and going on vacations to beautiful places. If you think about it, each thing that people go to that makes them feel really good, really happy, it has a sense of deep connection within it. That you're whether connected to the land that you're visiting, that you feel really present there, that you're connected to other people, right? If you're at a concert, if you're at an event, you feel like connected to this vibe, this sense of community. They've done the studies actually on the rats where I'm sure you all know this one, where they fill up, water with cocaine and then water, just plain water, and they put the rat alone in a cage and they see what's going to happen and, will it get addicted or what's going to happen. And the rat kind of tries both waters, and then after a while it starts just going to the water with the drugs in it. And it does that again and again and again until it dies, right? It just uses the drugs. But the scientists that did this experiment, they also did a separate experiment where they made a big park. They called it a rat park. And they put many rats in it. They put, fun colors and different kinds of foods and all of these different things in it that rats would enjoy. And then they also put this cocaine water and then also some normal water in there. And they found that the amount of rats that went to the water with drugs in it was substantially less, almost not at all. People follow the same patterning they've found is that, when they found these rats, when they had enough community, when they had enough connection, they just wanted the fresh water, right? They just wanted things that were healthy for them because they felt good. It's only when the rat was in isolation that it started going for the drugs. People follow very similar patterns, is that when we feel disconnected, we also tend to make choices that are not necessarily good for us, but they give us some kind of temporary feeling of relief, some kind of temporary feeling of connection. That when people are taken out of communities and they feel depressed and alone, they're often more likely to take drugs, for instance. Whereas if you have somebody that feels really connected, they feel great, they feel on top of the world, they don't need anything else. They feel fine as they are. And if they did try something, they wouldn't be addicted to it in the same way. So this feeling of connection on a really basic kind of biological level for us humans is super important, that we need this emotional feeling of connection. But this is also something that, again, it can kind of shortcut, it can hijack. We can make a quicker way into those feelings of peace and relaxation that we're searching for by using connection. One of my good friends, Brother Phap Lin, over at Plum Village Monastery, practicing with Thich Nhat Hanh, he said that when he meditates, as he would breathe in, relaxing, and as he'd breathe out, he'd pretend that he was making an offering. And he said to me, I don't know what I'm making an offering to, but I just feel that I'm making this offering out and I'm just connecting with each breath. And as I breathe and I'm connecting, I just start to feel lighter and lighter and happier because I'm just making this really beautiful connection that's sustaining me. I can also say for myself, when I was on retreat and I was doing my prostration retreat in Germany, and I had this, wooden board, and I'd slide down this board and to do these full-length bows, right? And I did this 3-month retreat. Every night I would sit and I would do something called a metta meditation. In Buddhism, metta means loving kindness. And the meditation of loving kindness is that you sit and you wish, may I be happy, may I be well, may I be free from danger, may I be free from harm, may I be at peace. And then we wish, may my family be happy, may my family be well, may my friends. And we expand our circle of affection from ourselves to our friends and family, to our neighbors, to our community, then even to the people that we don't like, right, even our enemies, that eventually we just wish all beings are happy. And I used to sit, and I had a piece of paper, and I drew like a compass on the piece of paper. And I drew the different directions, and I knew where I was in Germany, and I looked at a map, and I said, okay, so if I'm sitting in my room like this, America is that way, and India is that way, and France is that way, and I kind of plotted out where I was in my room connected to the rest of the world. And because I'm a world traveler, I've been to about 24 countries, I have thousands of friends, I sat with a piece of paper and I wrote down the names of all of the people that I knew in each of the directions around me. And every night after my practice, I would sit and I would say, may these people be happy, and I would reflect on all the people that I knew in front of me, and then everyone in their country, right? All the people to this side of me, I knew that America was over there. So I thought, oh, my family, all my friends, they're over there somewhere, right? And I went around me in a circle, and I just sent this love and this kindness and this protection and peace to all the people that I knew around me in all the directions. And by the end of it, I also then made the connection up, made whatever beings reside above me and whatever beings are below me. And I felt that I was kind of the center of this web of connection, that I felt so deeply connected to beings all around me in all directions that I dropped into a really deep state of peace and a state of happiness, because I felt so connected and so like this deep feeling of wellness almost, when you just feel connected. It's funny because if you think about a lot of the human emotions that we're fighting against, like things that make us feel ashamed of ourselves, guilt, anger, sadness in a lot of ways, that a lot of the what we would call negative emotions, if you really look at them, they somehow involve a disconnection in a way, right? They seem to be about me separate from everything else. And the emphasis or the exaggeration of that separation is bound into those emotions that are actually difficult and unpleasant. And on the other hand, if you really feel about a lot of the emotions that people are searching for, again, things like love, things like understanding, community, oneness, right? Unity, of course. All of these kind of very uplifted feelings, they have to do with the sense of connection somewhere wrapped in their base. That actually, in a really fundamental level, positive emotions have to do with connection. Love, connection, right? The heart chakra, it's connecting. And the other side of connection, it's separation. And one could say that in a base level, connection is pleasure and separation is pain. And, you can be connected to things that cause you pleasure, and also you could be connected to things that cause you pain. However, when you really look closely at things that cause you pain, this is something I've seen in my meditations, that if I'm feeling pain in my body, I have an aversion to it, that I'm connected to it, like it's, I'm stuck to that pain, it doesn't go away, but there's an aversion in my mind. But when I flip that aversion over, when I actually let my mind travel to that place of pain, when I go in, when I welcome it, when I say, okay, come on in, let's see what you've got. What's really going on? Oh, there's throbbing. Okay, there's heat, there's tingling, there's pressure. What's really the big deal? What is pain? And I start going into it. It starts to lessen the amount of suffering that it's causing me. It becomes not so bad anymore because I'm starting to connect deeply into it, that I'm letting go of all of my aversions. So something that's interesting with meditation, and there's a lot of different entry points, and I'm going to just talk about this connection as one of the entry points. That if we can develop that sense of being connected to our bodies, being connected to the ground, to the space around us, to our thoughts, to our feelings, to the space, to the air, whatever's around us, if we really allow ourselves to feel that deep connection, our mind is going to naturally start to open up. We feel safe, actually. We feel safe, we feel love, we feel stable. A kind of stability comes from connection as well. And all of these positive things, and again, if you're one of these people that on some base level you really feel disconnected from the world around you, if you can focus on feeling connected, it'll drop your mind into that place of peace, right? And again, there's many different entry points into this. So one could be loving kindness. One could be just focusing on sending love to people, and then that could suddenly make you feel totally happy and uplifted and drop you in. When I would do walking meditation, for whatever reason, when I'd walk in the forest, I would always walk while looking down at the ground, and I'd walk in a way that I never stepped on anything. And for whatever reason, by walking in a way that I didn't even disturb a single rock or a single stick or a single blade of grass, that I would just walk down paths in a way that I left no trace, it filled me with this amazing sense of peace. Something about focusing on preserving everything around me, providing everything around me with non-harming, with non-disturbance. This really created a strong sense of peace in my mind. And depending on what's going on in your own psyche, you'll have different entry points into that. That you could be sitting and breathing and focusing on the breath and relaxing, and it can get you to a certain place, but maybe you'll suddenly have an experience. Maybe you'll suddenly be connected to an emotion, or something will open up, and it'll suddenly just drop you into a really deep spot. In the old kind of text of the Buddha, there's text of his students. And I remember there was one text that one of his students, one of her children actually died. And she was walking around trying to figure out, how can I revive him? What can I do? And the Buddha actually gave her a task, and he said, if you can get me a single grain of mustard seed from the house in which nobody has died, I can bring your child back to life. And the woman said, oh, amazing, it's magic. If I get him a mustard seed from a house that nobody's died, then he'll be able to do some kind of magic spell and revive my child. So she went around in rural India and went house to house to house. And every single house she went to, and she said, can I have a mustard seed? And they'd say, oh, sure. And she'd say, oh, has anyone died here? And they'd say, oh, yeah, we did. We lost our child, or yeah, we lost our mother, or we lost our grandparent. And every single house she went to, somebody had died. And eventually she realized this lesson. So she went to the Buddha and she's like, I understand. Death is natural. Death can't be prevented. It happens to everybody. I want to be a student. And as she became a student and was practicing as a nun, one day she was sitting in front of a candle, and she looked at the candle, and as she was just in a really deep spot of meditation and she was looking at the candle, suddenly a wind came in and it blew out that candle. And that act of that flame being blown out, it somehow activated something in her mind, just this deep knowing of how fragile everything is, how temporary everything is, how there's nothing to hold on to, that she let go and she dropped into the deepest meditation of her life and actually became enlightened from that experience. So every now and then you'll get something, a certain situation, a certain dynamic, it'll trigger something in you, and on a really deep level, you'll just open and you'll just drop. There's actually a story from the Jewish traditions that students would often, talk to Rabbi, I think Rabbi Hillel, and the rabbi would answer their questions, and he would say, just place the teachings of God on your heart. Place the teachings on your heart. And one day the student said, Rabbi, why do you always say place the teachings on your heart? Why not say put them in your heart? And Rabbi said, well, you can't put them in your heart. You can only put them on your heart. And only when God breaks your heart open can the teachings go in. And this is very similar to what I learned as a monk, is that you get all of this conceptual, analytical, academic understanding of the practice of meditation, of what you're supposed to do, but it's only through certain life situations that suddenly those teachings make sense, that suddenly you make an experience of those teachings, you make an aha moment where it comes together. Oh, this is what I've been learning, this makes sense. And this starts to happen on really deep emotional levels, deep perceptual levels that allow you to start to open up and to receive information in a different way. You can try to seek those experiences out, but also you can simply keep yourself familiar with the teachings. You could keep practicing meditation. You could keep working on it. I know when I was in the monastery in Australia, and I did a 3-month retreat there, I was working on meditating, and I was trying to go deeper, and I'd kind of go in and out and in and out. And suddenly I had a glass of, or a mug of tea. And I was talking to another monk, and I was saying, I keep trying to get deeper and it's not working. And I held up my mug and I said, it's as if I'm just going around and around and around the mug, but I want to go in the mug and I'm just going around it. And as I was just circling it with my finger, I said to him, and it's funny because I am the mug. And something just made sense to me when I said that. And I put the tea down and I just said to him, I need to be alone. And he got up and he left, and I closed my eyes and I sank into a 3-hour meditation. That was the deepest meditation of my life as well, because something just made sense and clicked and opened up, and I dropped. And so when I'm talking today about connection, just as one of those things, because there are going to be some of you out there that if you sit and you focus on feeling connected to the space around you, you focus on being connected to yourself, all of the people in your lives that you're connected to, the teachings that you're connected to, that we're connected to everything, actually. There's some of you that if you can really get into that state, that sense, that feeling of connection, something in your mind is going to click and open up, and you'll be able to drop right in. So this is one way, even if you're not one of those people that's going to drop right in, it's still starting to build a positive mind state. It's still starting to build this feeling of unity, of oneness, of safety, of security, of encompassingness. Yeah, and when you start to get into that space anyway, you're going to start to feel more peaceful and more relaxed and more at one, right, as they say, right? You want to feel this oneness. But for some of you, this will be a really powerful and potent technique. So I'll teach the meditation after this, and I'll lead us into the feeling of connection and see what that does for you. Also, I was reflecting today as I was climbing that, actually making these videos is kind of difficult for me. So I teach a lot, and I'm usually sitting in front of classes. I'm sitting in front of rooms of students or teachers, or, I'm just at a meditation workshop or whatever. And I usually ask people, what do you want to hear about? Where are you in your practice? And when I hear from them and I can feel it out and I get feedback, then I know exactly what to say, and I can give really precise and kind of directed talks. I've noticed for myself when I'm just kind of sitting and talking to a camera, I'm giving you what I feel would be the best thing for you to hear right now, just thinking of the information that I already have out there. But that being said, if you guys would give me feedback, let me know what you want to hear about. Let me know where you are in your practice, what's going on in your lives. Send me an email. You could do sethmonkmail@gmail.com. If you're in the Facebook group, you can just send me to Facebook. If you're part of the Meditation Mastery on the website, I have a little comment side at the end of it. Let me know where you're at, right? Connect to me. Let me know what you want to hear about, and it'll also help me really assist you in a better way. So thank you again for being with me. I hope next time I have kind of better lighting and maybe more of a beautiful backdrop for this video. But take care and see you next week.